Hi, I'm Sonya White Jaguar. Welcome to this edition of White Jaguar Wednesdays, my semi-monthly series where I discuss spiritual subjects inspired by your questions. Today is part 2 of my series where I'm answering a question that someone submitted who is looking for more techniques to help prepare for connecting with spirit and being able to see and hear them. They asked, is it something that you have to open or turn on in a certain way? How do you train yourself to have more experiences across the veil? So if you missed the first video in this series, I do encourage you to go back and watch that video. Today, what I'd like to cover are some physical practices that you can try to help to open up. So the first thing that I wanted to remind you is that the people on the other side work with our intention. So if there is someone that you would like to make contact with, you definitely want to ask them and put that intention out there to connect with them, whether that's a loved one or a spirit guide, because they work with our intention. And ask them to help you to open up so that you can hear them and see them, and ask them to communicate in a way that you can understand as well. So I wanted to mention that first, to be sure to put that intention out there. And you can do that out loud or you can do that in your mind. Either way, it doesn't matter, as long as you are making the intention, that's all. Okay, so I've mentioned that the most prominent spirit guide who has been working with me now for several years is the British actor Alan Rickman, who passed away in 2016. He is a phenomenal spirit guide. I have learned more from him than anyone else that I've worked with on the other side. And that's why I do put his name out there, and I encourage you, if you feel a connection with him, if you feel guided to connect with him and work with him as a spirit guide, I definitely encourage you to do so. He shared a message in the first video of this series, and he has more that he asked me to share with you today. He wanted to be a part of this series to help you to open up, to connect with spirit. He believes in this work. He wants to help people. So what he has recommended is something specific as it relates to crystals and an altar. So I'd like to talk about his suggestions next. So when I do healing work, I work a lot with the chakra system. Now, you may have seen pictures like this before. You may work with the chakras yourself. You might know how this works. If you're not familiar with the chakras, you can Google the chakras, and there's lots of information online about it. There's pictures like this online. But basically, this is a depiction of our energy body. We have 7 main energy centers that run the length of our spine up to the top of the head. And we can work with the chakra system in healing work. And whenever something needs a little bit of extra work, when I'm working with someone, say for example their solar plexus, the chakra number 3, is maybe a little congested, or there's something emotional going on, I will recommend after the session to work with crystals that are the color of that chakra. And as you can see, those chakras correspond to the 7 colors of the rainbow. And so this is Alan's first suggestion, is to work with some specific crystals related to the chakras by color. So he specifically is recommending green and blue crystals, which correspond to the heart and throat chakras, to help open those up. If you watch the first video, Alan had shared a message about connecting with the heart chakra to help to open up. So this is kind of a continuation of that, working with the heart chakra as the portal to the higher dimension. And then the throat chakra, of course, not only does that represent channeling, but it's just the idea of communication, two-way communication. So it's not only speaking, but it's hearing. So being able to hear spirit. So that's why he's recommending zeroing in on the heart and throat chakras. So what does that look like in terms of crystals? So I set an altar on the dresser here with some sample crystals, just to give you an idea. It doesn't matter size or shape. It doesn't matter what type of crystals. Just to keep it very simple Alan's recommendation is green and blue. So you can see I have a few. Here I collect crystal skulls, so I have a green crystal skull. I have a raw piece of blue angel light. Here I have one that's in the shape of an egg. This one's in the shape of a wand. I have a heart shape. I have a pyramid shape. So size and shape does not matter. I have a really big piece of celestite here, which I actually like to use when I'm on a Zoom call with someone. I'll either hold it or place it in my lap, and I use this to increase the connection and the communication with the other person, making sure that I'm understanding them and I'm communicating well to them and vice versa. So you can do that sort of thing with crystals. You can hold them, especially when you're meditating. You can even wear them. Like I've got a green necklace and bracelet on today. You can wear them on your person, keep them in a pocket, and so forth. So you can physically hold the crystals. But what Alan recommends specifically is to set them on an altar. So I have an altar set up here for Alan with a picture and flowers, and I have a candle burning. And you can set the crystals on an altar. I actually have a bowl here too with some different odds and ends, blue and green and different colors, that I actually keep this on one of my altars. So there's no right or wrong. But basically what Alan will do is he will energize the crystals for you to help you to stimulate those chakras and to open spiritually so that you can hear and see spirit more clearly. And the other note that he asked me to make about an altar is food. He loves it when people put food on his altar. So I actually have a few samples of food here that you can use to get ideas. I have a box of tea, I have a granola bar, and a bag of seeds. And what you can do is put an item like this, something that you like to eat that's non-perishable, set it on your altar for 2 or 3 days. And then what Alan will do is, just like he can energize the crystals to help you with your intention, he can energize the food as well. And then after 2 or 3 days, you can ingest the food and you will assimilate the energy that he has put into the food. So if you put the intention into your altar, into the food, to help you to open up spiritually, Alan will help you manifest that. And if you think about it, when you're eating food, again, what chakra is that? That's the throat chakra, because you're taking that food in through your mouth, right? So those are Alan's suggestions. Someone did ask me a question specifically about crystals. So in a future video, I will discuss crystals in more detail. So if you like to work with crystals, definitely stay tuned for that video. At the conclusion of this series, I will talk more about crystals. Okay, so what else can you do to help to open up spiritually, to be able to see and hear spirit? So what I also recommend is creative expression. That's not something that we think about much. But our culture on the whole doesn't value the arts that much. If you listen to music, or if you read poetry, or if you look at art, there might be times where you might say, I feel like that artist is channeling. That's not coming from them. They're channeling this work from the higher dimensions. And I feel that's very important. It's a shame that we as a culture don't value that more. Many of us, we might have maybe done some drawing or some writing when we were kids in school, or maybe even before school. But then once we graduated and started working and raising kids of our own, etc., we let our creative expression slide. And that's a wonderful way to connect with our soul and to begin to make that connection with the higher dimensions. So I definitely recommend that whatever you feel guided to do, creatively speaking, rekindle that relationship to your creative self. So whether that's simply journaling, if it's drawing, if it's writing poetry, listening to music, looking at artwork, whatever that is for you, that's what I would recommend that you do, because that will help you to connect with your soul and ultimately the higher dimensions. Now, the last thing I'd like to mention is dreams. Dreams are a very common way for people on the other side to make contact with us and to give us messages. And we all dream. We may not necessarily remember our dreams or remember them very well. So what I would recommend that you do is put that intention out there. Ask your loved ones and spirit guides that you want to work with, ask them to help you remember your dreams and to give you messages in your dreams. You can even put that intention in your altar, in the crystals and in the food. And remember, they will work with your intention. And then, keep a journal next to your bed. And then when you wake up, write down all the symbols that you can remember. You don't have to write a big long story, but just whatever jumps out at you that you remember, because that's the most important part. And then you can go back in the weeks and months later and look for patterns and look for messages. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover today. In the next video, I'd like to share a specific technique that you can try to help you to develop your higher sense perceptions. And it's another way of asking yes/no questions, which I had covered in an earlier video. So this is a different technique for asking yes/no questions to open up spiritually. So I hope you'll join me for that video. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified when that video is posted. You can also subscribe to my newsletter on my website, SONYA'S.com, and you can get notified that way as well. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below or email me at Sonya@SONYA'S.com. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.